Next, we will have 3 youth leaders, Ella Schreiner, Jaden Wynn, and Yana Perez speaking on youth demands to the city of Portland. Ella Schreiner is a 17-year-old senior at Grant High School and one of the founding members of the Portland Youth Climate Council. Yana Perez is a 16-year-old advocate and accomplice, and she's a youth activist and hopes to leave the world a better place than when she found it.
Hi everyone. I just want to say I am so amazed by everything we have accomplished today. Deeply inspired standing up here and seeing all of you standing with us. Thank you. There are 4,482 strikes registered globally and over 1,000 are taking place in the US today. The people have spoken and it is time to listen. Here are the 5 national demands of every strike that is happening across the U.S. today. First, a Green New Deal. We demand a Green New Deal that transforms our economy to 100% clean, renewable energy by 2030 and phase out all fossil fuel extraction through a just and equitable transition. And through that process, create millions of jobs. For fossil fuel extraction, processing, and infrastructure projects immediately. Second, respect indigenous land and sovereignty. America has disrespected and dishonored the rightful land of its indigenous peoples since time immemorial. It is imperative that we honor the treaties protecting indigenous lands, waters, and sovereignty by the immediate halt of all construction, leasing, and permitting for resource extraction, processing, and infrastructure projects affecting or on indigenous lands. There must be a formal and legal recognition to recognize the rights of nature into law, to protect our sacred ecosystems, and align human law with natural law to ban resource extraction in defense of our environment and our people. Third of all, environmental justice. What our country needs is a transition that invests in prosperity for communities on the front lines of poverty and pollution. Those who pay the consequences for climate change are often the ones who contribute the least. This is unacceptable. Furthermore, we must do our part in welcoming those displaced by the cumulative effects of the climate crisis, economic inequality, violence, and lack of opportunity. And that is the only way to build an equitable future for our climate. All right, for the fourth demand is protection and restoration of biodiversity. We ask for the protection and restoration of 50% of the world's lands and oceans, including a halt to all deforestation by 2030, because an Earth lacking in biodiversity is an Earth inhabitable to us all. And finally, our last demand is the implementation of sustainable agriculture, investment in farmers and regenerative agriculture, and an end to subsidies for industrial culture. In order to build our future, in order to have a future, we need to emphasize sustainability in the production of our resources. Every single one of these demands are something that I believe must be a reality if we're truly to win this fight for a sustainable climate. Next, we have Ella and another youth organizer is going to join me in talking about the local demands that we have for our city.
Can you hear me? Mine's open.
We have asked, we have pleaded, and we have come back countless times to urge for meaningful action.
But without the adequate response from our political leaders, their inaction has forced us into action. We don't want our futures to be burdened by the indecisions of their generation. So we're choosing to emphasize our right to and demand a sustainable future. In the weeks before the strike, youth organizers and Portland community members came together to define our demands for the city of Portland in order to make our vision of a stable climate a reality.
For us, this climate strike isn't just about political protest. It's an outcry for our lives. Please join us in declaring our demands to the mayor and the city of Portland.
The city of Portland has been developing a climate emergency resolution behind our backs.
Climate emergency resolution may sound like a win, but there's more to consider with such a policy.
In October, Mayor Ted Wheeler plans to attend a climate-focused Mayor's Summit in Copenhagen. He has been invited as a guest speaker to highlight his, along with Portland's leadership in addressing the climate crisis.
With knowledge of this invitation, the mayor quickly started putting together a new resolution, a climate emergency declaration.
But he did this without community engagement.
He did this without speaking to the communities that will be hit hardest by and are least responsible for the climate crisis.
He did this without speaking to the youth.
He even did this without communicating effectively with offices within his own city government.
He did this without all of us.
For policy to be effective, there must be communication within our communities. This resolution must feel like a product of all of our hard work, something that we can be proud of.
Something that will make a difference. The mayor fast-tracked this resolution to have another trophy to parade around as strong climate action. But we will not stand for this.
4 years ago, Portlanders worked with the city and we passed the fossil fuel infrastructure ban. This was strong action. The city and the community came together and we made a statement to the rest of the country. But where is that statement now?
After being sued, the city was told that parts of the law had to be reworked before it could be implemented. But what did they do with that? Nothing.
We came together once again over 2 years ago to pass the 100% renewable energy resolution. It was built from community engagement, calling for a transition off of fossil fuels and to renewable energy by 2050. We now know that 2050, even 2035, is far too late. We have 10 and a half years to transition.
But nonetheless, this resolution laid out a plan, a specific timeline and specific actions that we must take to combat this crisis. And this timeline required an update on the city's progress in June of 2019. And what have we heard? Nothing.
So yes, Mayor Wheeler, Portland has passed progressive policy. But what meaning does it have without action?
What indications do we have that this new resolution will bring about any meaningful change if we aren't seeing action on the policy we've already developed? It's time to start acting and take greater leaps toward climate justice than ever before.
These resolutions may have been appropriate for their time, but that time has passed. And now we're here, speaking to you, Mayor Wheeler.
Do you want this to be a plan that will ignite meaningful action, or something that you can fast-track to the Copenhagen C40 World Mayors Summit as an inaccurate demonstration of Portland's leadership? Action is more important than just having a statement. And action can only come from solidarity and group commitment.
We demand that you reconsider the climate emergency resolution. We demand you revise your process to include all stakeholders whose futures are affected by this declaration. We demand you to allow them to develop bold, creative, courageous actions with an expedited timeline.
Our second demand is to stop Zenith. We are in the middle of a battle.
We are fighting to protect the health of our communities against the drive for profit by a corporation. Zenith Energy, a Texas-based company, has extorted Portland's permit procedure to create a way for themselves to expand their capacity to process Canadian tar sands oil.
I'm sure many of you are familiar with tar sands oil. It is considered to be the worst source of energy on the entire planet for exacerbating climate change. Because of this terminal, there is a stream of mile-long unit trains coming through the gorge and into Portland, carrying this dangerous oil.
And the reality is, trains derail. We've seen it happen on countless occasions. In Watertown, Michigan in 2015, in Money, Mississippi in 2017, and in our own beautiful Columbia Gorge in 2016. Just under 2 weeks ago, 2 engines and 3 tank cars derailed in North Portland.
When cars are carrying oil, they are extremely explosive. Over a quarter of the people in Multnomah County live within the half-mile blast zone of potential train explosions.
We are through waiting to see what our government will do for us. Will they protect the health and safety of their citizens? Or will our city government get caught up in the profit of these corporations? Is the threat of a lawsuit by the corporation greater than the threat of thousands of Portlanders being engulfed in flames by an oil trail derailment? Hundreds of citizens show up again and again, and what we hear from the city is that they are trying everything they can.
They say they don't have the legal wherewithal to shut Zenith down, but we don't accept that. City commissioners are responsible for the health and safety of the city, and they can influence the level of emergency preparedness and safety measures required for potential accidents. If these safety measures are inadequate, they could issue a stop work order. Zenith Energy poses actions that make clear our future is worth more than fossil fuel expansion and corporate profit.
We demand that the city stop granting any permits to this immoral company and issue an immediate stop work order for this facility. And at 3 p.m. at the festival today, we'll be taking an aerial photo where we'll be using our bodies to spell Stop Zenith. Please join us for this action.
You'll hear more about our third demand at the festival. We demand that the city and TriMet provide all Portland and metropolitan area youth with free transit passes. This is an important equity issue and also the best way to build ridership in young Portlanders.
Alright, on to our fourth demand, second to last, don't worry. Our fourth demand for this city is to establish a climate test. What we need is for every decision made by the city of Portland and its departments to take into account the health of the planet, and they must choose what will most benefit the earth. We're demanding that for every decision our city makes, its lawmakers and elected officials must choose the course of action that will be best for the planet. Listen to the science. Listen to the people. However, fighting Fighting the climate breakdown is about much more than emissions and scientific metrics. It's about fighting for a just and sustainable world that works for all of us. That's why we need you to engage with the frontline communities who are being disproportionately affected by this every step of the way. That's why we need to establish a climate test to check every decision that is made and to make sure that it is the right one. That's why we also can't allow for things like Zenith to keep on happening. All the political leaders out there, all of our elected officials, all of our lawmakers who are listening, there is no planet B. We don't get a second chance. We have to act, and we have to act now. I want to remind you that the thousands of youth that have shown up today will be the ones who choose to vote you in or vote you out of office. I want to remind you that all of the people who have shown their support for our cause and have come here today to fight with us are your constituents. They have shown you that this is what they care about. I want you to remember this day. Remember this moment. And when we look back on this critical turning point in history, whose side were you on?
And finally, no city or mayor can be described as a climate leader if the most polluting form of energy on the entire planet is still allowed to be imported by train and stored for export within our city limits.
No city or mayor can be described as a climate leader if they are rushing weak policy through without engaging the people that matter.
No city or mayor can be described as a climate leader if they do not take what is best for the climate into account for all city policy.
So, Mr. Wheeler, we require of you this. Don't go to Copenhagen for the C40 Mayor Summit in October as a climate champion mayor if these truly bold actions are not taken.
Stay home, Mr. Wheeler. Stay home and address what the people of Portland are demanding of you.
Stay home and join us out here.
Stay home and be brave and take bold action. We know you don't want to be seen as a coward, so prove to us that you aren't.
Together we can make the changes that will ensure a safe future for us all. We're counting on you.
All of you.
Can I get another round of applause for those amazing youth? Okay, next up is our last speaker. We have Lana Paris. She's a youth advocate and accomplice who fights for intersectional equity and for a better world. She hails from Cleveland High School and believes wholly in the power of the people and her generation as they fight for the future. That's us, everybody! Thank you, Shreya, and thank you, Yenna, and thank you, Ella. My name is Lana Paris. Today I give thanks. I honor the people who fight for a better world. I honor Misha Belden. I honor Yenna Paris. I honor Greta Thunberg. I honor Annika Solaris Nelson. I honor Sharia Chinam. I honor Davina O'Rourke. I honor Jackson Calhoun. I honor Eden Cook and Chris Palmer. I honor Sarah Powell. I honor those who fought when it mattered. This was not supposed to be my burden to bear. This earth is not dying. It is simply losing the ability to sustain life. But how could I explain the intrinsic value of a human life to you? How could I explain that through
humanity is a celebration of laughter and love and pain, but we were not born to be America's prophet. We were not born to die. They say I cannot lose what I have never known, but all we have ever known is fear, and this is nothing in the face of the unknown. This generation rests on broken backs. You know, caught between a war of white nationalism and humanity, we are defiant of a world in which the youth cannot breathe, the dreamers cannot dream, the wreckage of those red hats and what we might be. This was not supposed to be my burden to bear. You see, one day I would have liked to have kids. I would have wanted to see the Great Barrier Reef. I would have taken those kids there and we would have lost ourselves to the tide and flow of an earth both warm and wild. But I refuse to let this be their burden to bear. My future, now the product of America's greed, encapsulated in the form of capitalism and whiteness. But what have I lost that was not taken from me by a white man? For what cheap American dream did I watch my mother break her back to afford? For I have worked my weight in gold, and mama's thighs do not come thin. But that dream was never about being great. I love you, Amma. This country should not have been your burden to bear. For my people, every colonizer has said, in one hand the profit of a genocide, and the other the spines of our grandmothers. For mine, the Native American answers to a story that is not mine to tell, but should be carved into the hands of every white person who asks for more. So that they have to look at it every time they reach for something that shouldn't be theirs. For what is these last centuries but a reflection of pain? For what can I see when I look towards our future? America, who the fuck do you think you are? We are the bone-shattering, mountain-moving, blood-raw legacy you left behind. This was not our burden to bear. But in these broken and triumphant souls, we will once more shoulder the burden of a white man's greed. In this world, we will be the voices of the voiceless, and dear God, we will not be afraid. We will be the beating heart of this world as the reclamation of this land begins. We will not define ourselves to the long line of cultural genocide and institutionalized racism you forced upon us. No! That the silence of those you cause suffering comforts you no longer. Know that we are young and we are alive and we will prevail. And what you did unto us, we will return tenfold. Do not scold the children that you nursed on poisoned water and heroes of the unbreakable sword. Fear us, love us, see us, for all too soon you will need us. And we will not answer to the same hands that broke the backs of our mothers. We will not answer your call to the slaughtering of innocents in your wars, America. We owe you nothing. Not our blood, not our money, not our love, and not our future. This was not our burden to bear. But you stood and you watched as our house stood burning. And we will not stop to watch when we burn the burden of you with it. Thank y'all for being here today! Y'all ready to march? Marching over the Hawthorne Bridge to OMSI for our climate festival. We're gonna march peacefully and legally. Alright? I want you guys to chant with us. Sing with us. Let people know why we are striking for our future. I am so proud.
I'd like to say a word. Today, we are a voice. We are a voice not just in Portland or in Oregon. We are a voice around the world. We are united to fight. We are fighting literally for our lives. They are the best in us. They're the best for us. They love us.
All right, guys. Everybody be lining up along Madison. Thank you so much for coming. Right along Madison. Line up and let's march. Thank you again.
This is amazing. I've never seen this many people gather at Terry Schrunk before. More excited. Everybody's really respectful and peaceful and stuff.